The silent benefactors. The Nexari ship drifted silently into Earth's orbit, its crystalline structure absorbing and refracting sunlight in ways that rendered it nearly invisible to conventional detection systems. Inside, first observer Kil Naren watched the blue planet with 8 multifaceted eyes, each one processing different wavelengths of data simultaneously. The life support fluid surrounding his fragile body bubbled with anticipation. Remarkable, he communicated to his crew, their thoughts flowing through the neural interface. The atmospheric composition is more volatile than anticipated, yet they thrive. The Nexari had been studying Earth remotely for decades. Humans were classified as a Level 3 civilization, technologically advancing but still confined to their solar system, politically fractured, culturally diverse. Most importantly, they were physically robust in ways the Nexari could barely comprehend. Begin targeted atmospheric sampling, Kyle Naren ordered. Focus on population centers where medical research facilities are concentrated. The Nexari's situation was desperate. Once the dominant species in their sector of the galaxy, their biological evolution had prioritized intellect over physical resilience. Over millennia, their bodies had become increasingly fragile, translucent skin, hollow bones, and immune systems so specialized they couldn't adapt to new pathogens. A mutation in a common microorganism had begun decimating their population across 27 worlds. Their best estimates gave them less than 30 years before extinction. The Galactic Conclave, the loose federation of spacefaring species that maintained order in this arm of the galaxy, had offered standard protocols: evacuation, cryogenic preservation, digital consciousness transfer. All solutions the Nexari had already attempted and found wanting. What they needed was biological innovation, something that had been bred out of their culture centuries ago in favor of technological advancement. Earth wasn't part of the conclave. Humans didn't even know about the existence of other intelligent life. That made them perfect. "We have identified the optimal contact site," announced second observer Tav Iron, her thoughts crisp and structured. "An isolated research facility in the northern hemisphere, specializing in genetic medicine. Small staff, advanced equipment, minimal security." Kyle Naren pulsed agreement through the neural interface. "Prepare the encounter protocols. Remember, humans are physically formidable, but emotionally complex. Our survival depends on understanding both aspects." Dr. Elena Reyes stared at her computer screen, fighting fatigue. The lab was empty at 2 a.m., just how she liked it. No distractions, no administrative meetings, just her data, and the puzzle of how to reprogram immune responses in compromised systems. 3 years into her research grant, and she was still hitting the same walls. Conventional approaches weren't working. Her latest test results confirmed what she already suspected. They needed a paradigm shift, not incremental improvements. The lights flickered, and her computer screen went blank. "Perfect," she muttered, reaching for her phone to call maintenance. Before she could dial, the screen came back to life, but instead of her research data, strange symbols flowed across it, geometric patterns that seemed to shift and reconfigure before her eyes. Elena stepped back, a chill running down her spine. The symbols rearranged themselves, gradually forming into English letters. "We require assistance. We come with respect. Please maintain calm." What the hell? She reached for the emergency alarm. "Your research on adaptive immunity is valuable. We offer exchange of knowledge." Elena's finger hovered over the alarm. This had to be a prank. Or maybe she'd finally worked too many late nights. But something about the precision of the message, the way it referenced her specific research focus. "Who are you?" she said aloud, feeling ridiculous talking to her computer. The screen changed, showing what appeared to be a biological entity unlike anything she'd ever seen. Translucent tissues, complex neural structures, suspended in some kind of liquid. We are inexari. We are doing. Humanity may hold the key to our survival. Within 72 hours, Alina's quiet research facility had been transformed. Government officials, military personnel, and specialists from a dozen different fields had descended after she reported the contact. The Nexari ship now sat visible on the facility's grounds, a structure of impossible geometry that seemed to shift depending on the angle from which it was viewed. Inside a hastily constructed containment building, Alina faced First Observer Kilnaren across a specially designed interface chamber. The alien floated in his life support fluid, connected to translation devices that converted his neural patterns into speech. Your species has remarkable biological adaptability. Kyle Naren's translated voice emerged from speakers. What you call junk DNA contains evolutionary possibilities our species engineered out of existence millennia ago. And this pathogen that's affecting your people, Alina asked, you've tried everything. We have exhausted all approaches known to the 23 spacefaring species in the Galactic Conclave. Our biological science reached its peak 10,000 years ago when we began favoring technological solutions. Now we face extinction because we cannot adapt quickly enough. Dr. Haruki Tanaka, the immunologist who had been brought in from Tokyo, leaned forward. Why us? Why not approach this conclave you mentioned? The Nexari's body pulsed with colors that the translation device interpreted as equivalent to a sigh. The conclave operates on protocols established over millennia. They believe species should evolve or perish according to natural processes. Intervention is permitted only in specific circumstances, none of which apply to our situation. And they don't know you've come to us, said Alina, understanding dawning. Correct. Earth is classified as a developing world, not yet ready for conclave membership. Contact is technically forbidden. General Walters, the military liaison assigned to the project, stepped forward. So you're breaking galactic law by being here, and potentially involving us in your problems. The law is complex, replied Kyle Naren. We are permitted observational studies. We have merely extended the definition of observation. If discovered, we would bear the consequences, not humanity. Alina caught the carefully phrased evasion. But if you succeed, if we help you develop a cure or treatment for your people, then the conclave would know you've had contact with us. Yes, and they would likely accelerate humanity's integration process into galactic society, ready or not. General Walters crossed his arms. That sounds like a threat. It is merely the reality. The alien responded. You would be thrust onto a stage where civilizations have been playing complex games of alliance and influence for millions of years. Some would welcome you. Others would see you as disruptive or easily manipulated. The room fell silent as the implications sank in. Humanity's first contact wouldn't be a celebrated historical moment. It would be a backdoor entry into interstellar politics, with Earth immediately labeled as rule breakers. What exactly do you need from us? Alina finally asked. Your genetic diversity, your immune system's remarkable ability to adapt to new threats, your scientific perspective unconstrained by conclave orthodoxy. The aliens' colors shifted to deep blues and purples. We need you to do what humanity has always excelled at, finding unconventional solutions when faced with impossible problems. 6 months later, the joint human Nexari research facility had expanded underground, hidden from satellite surveillance. Teams of scientists worked around the clock, combining Nexari biotechnology with human medical approaches. Alina hadn't seen daylight in weeks. The synthetic antibodies are showing promise, she told Kyle Naren, who had become both colleague and friend during their intensive collaboration. The hybrid approach using modified human stem cells to create adaptable immune responses in Nexari physiology is working in simulations. Your species thinks differently, Kyle Naren observed. Where our scientists sought perfect solutions, you embrace imperfection and iteration. We've had to. Alina smiled tiredly. We're messy biological beings. Trial and error is in our DNA. Their conversation was interrupted by Dr. Tanaka rushing into the lab, his face grim. "We've got a problem. General Walters just received word from our deep space monitoring station. Multiple objects are approaching Earth at impossible speeds." Kyle Naren's body pulsed with alarm colors. "The Conclave has discovered our presence. They've sent enforcement vessels." "How long do we have?" Elena asked. 3 days, perhaps 4, the alien replied. "They will establish quarantine protocols around your planet. No communication in or out. They will demand my ship and crew, along with all research data." "Will they hurt us?" Dr. Tanaka asked. "Not directly. The Conclave does not engage in violence against developing worlds, but they will isolate Earth completely until they determine you are no longer contaminated by outside influence. It could be decades." Elena's mind raced. "So we have 3 days to either hide all evidence you were ever here, or complete our work and implement it," Kyle Naren finished. "If we can demonstrate a successful treatment for my species, using methods that don't violate Conclave bioengineering restrictions, we might negotiate." General Walters, who had entered during the conversation, shook his head. 3 days isn't enough time, and we can't just surrender to these Conclave demands. Earth governments are still trying to process the existence of alien life. They're not ready for an alien blockade. Elena looked at the research data floating on her screens. They were close, so close to a breakthrough. The hybrid immunity approach showed immense promise, but they needed more time to perfect it. "What if," she said slowly, "we don't hide, and we don't surrender? What if we accelerate?" Kyle Naren's colors shifted in confusion. "Please clarify." "You said the Conclave enforces isolation until they're satisfied a world is no longer contaminated by outside influence. But what if we lean into the contamination? What if we make it clear that humanity and the Nexari are now permanently connected through this research?" "Creating a fait accompli," General Walters nodded thoughtfully. "They can't undo knowledge already gained." "More than that," Elena continued, excitement building. "We announce ourselves to the galaxy on our terms. Not as rule breakers or naive newcomers, but as problem solvers offering a solution to a crisis the Conclave couldn't address." Dr. Tanaka looked skeptical. "You're suggesting we deliberately antagonize an interstellar governing body on our first official contact?" "I'm suggesting we do what humans have always done when backed into a corner," Elena replied. "Adapt, innovate, refuse to accept the limitations others place on us." She turned to Kyle Naren. "Your people came to us because you recognize something in humanity that the Conclave doesn't understand. Now it's time to prove them right." The alien's colors swirled in complex patterns before settling into a steady, resolute blue. "What do you propose?" "We need to compress months of work into 3 days," Elena said. "And we need to prepare for a very awkward first meeting with your galactic conclave." As the enforcement vessels approached Earth, carrying representatives from the oldest civilizations in the known galaxy, humanity prepared to announce its presence to the stars, not with humble greetings or diplomatic pleasantries, but with a cure for a disease that had baffled the combined intelligence of 23 advanced species. It would either be the most impressive introduction in galactic history, or the beginning of humanity's isolation from the cosmic community. Either way, the Nexari and their human allies worked through the night, racing against time and the approaching judgment of the stars. Defiance of the stars. The Conclave enforcement fleet arrived with precisely calculated intimidation. 7 ships of varying designs, representing the founding species of the galactic governing body, took positions around Earth in a perfect heptagonal formation. Their technology negated any attempt at communication beyond the planet's atmosphere, effectively cutting humanity off from the rest of the solar system. In the underground facility, Elena watched the live satellite feed until it abruptly went dark. "They've established the quarantine field," Kyle Naren explained, his body floating in the modified life support chamber they had constructed. "Standard Conclave protocol. It blocks transmissions but allows their representatives to make planetfall." General Walters studied the tactical displays that still functioned. Our military installations worldwide are on high alert, but honestly, if these ships wanted to attack, I doubt we could stop them. The Conclave does not destroy developing worlds, Kyle Naren reassured them. They will send delegates to assess the situation. They will demand compliance. Elena turned from the dead screens to the laboratory, where dozens of scientists were working frantically. The past 72 hours had been a blur of activity. Test results, genetic sequences, prototype treatments, all processed at a pace that would have been impossible without the neural enhancement technology the Nexeri had provided. Where do we stand? She asked Dr. Tanaka, who was coordinating the final phase of their work. The synthetic immune platform is stable, he replied, exhaustion evident in his voice. We've successfully integrated modified human stem cells with Nexeri biological matrices. The preliminary tests show a 94% effectiveness rate against the pathogen. Not 100%, she noted. No, but the system continues to adapt. That's the beauty of it. Unlike the static solutions the Nexeri had tried before, this treatment evolves alongside the pathogen. Elena nodded. Exactly what we hoped for. How soon can we begin full implementation? The production system is already synthesizing the first batch. 6 hours until it's ready for kill Naren. A communications officer interrupted them. Dr. Rice, General Walters, we're receiving a transmission from the Conclave ships. They're requesting landing coordinates for their delegation. General Walters looked to Elena, an unspoken question in his eyes. This was the moment of truth. The path they'd chosen couldn't be undone. She gave a firm nod. Direct them to land at our facility, the general ordered, and notify the President's Special Committee. It's time. The Conclave delegation was a study in biological diversity. 5 representatives from different species, each one more alien than the last, stepped from their shuttle with practiced diplomatic precision. Their leader, a tall, insectoid being with iridescent exoskeletal plates, addressed the Human Reception Committee in flawless English, courtesy of advanced translation technology. I am High Arbiter Zex Fallon of the Galactic Conclave, the being announced. We have detected unauthorized contact between the Nexeri Collective and your world, in violation of Developmental Isolation Protocol 7-93. We are here to rectify this breach. Elena stepped forward alongside General Walters and the United Nations Secretary General, who had arrived just hours earlier. High Arbiter, I am Dr. Elena Reyes. We understand your concerns, but we believe there are mitigating circumstances you should consider. The insectoid's antennae twitched. There are no mitigating circumstances for protocol violations. The Nexeri representatives must surrender themselves immediately, and all knowledge transferred to your species must be catalogued for potential removal. Removal? The Secretary General asked. Are you suggesting some kind of memory alteration? Another delegate, a gelatinous being contained within a hovering mechanical framework, rippled in what might have been the equivalent of a nod. Selective cognitive adjustment is standard procedure in cases of premature exposure. Your species is not prepared for integration into the galactic community. Elena felt a surge of anger, but kept her voice level. With respect, we disagree. Not only are we prepared, but we've accomplished something your conclave has failed to do. We've developed a treatment for the Nexeri pathogen. The delegates exchanged glances, their body language impossible to interpret. Finally, the High Arbiter spoke. This claim will be verified. However, it does not change the protocol violation. Perhaps it should, Elena countered. The Nexeri came to us because they were dying and your conclave refused to help. They chose Earth not because we're primitive, but because we think differently than the established galactic community. Your species' history is marked by violence, environmental destruction, and tribal conflict, stated another delegate, a crystalline entity whose voice seemed to emanate from multiple points simultaneously. These are not traits the conclave wishes to introduce to galactic society prematurely. General Walters stepped forward. Our history also includes overcoming those very challenges. We've united in the face of existential threats before. The Nexari situation is no different. Take us to these Nexari, the High Arbiter commanded. We will determine the appropriate response after assessing the full extent of the violation. In the laboratory complex, Kyle Naren faced his fellow Nexari, who had arrived with the Conclave fleet. Their neural communication was silent to the humans, but Elena could see from their pulsing colors that an intense exchange was taking place. The Conclave primary observer Ishnovan indicates that our actions have caused significant disruption. Kyle Naren finally translated for the humans. The Nexari collective may face sanctions for our decision to seek help from Earth. And what of the treatment we've developed? Dr. Tanaka asked. Surely that counts for something. The Nexari primary observer's colors shifted to patterns Elena had never seen before. Kyle Naren's translation came slowly, as if he was choosing his words carefully. Observer Ishnovan acknowledges our preliminary results are unexpected. The Conclave's biotechnology division had concluded that no solution was possible within established paradigms, because they're bound by tradition and protocol. Elena interjected. We approached the problem differently because we had to, because human medical science developed under different pressures and priorities. The High Arbiter, who had been silent during this exchange, finally spoke. This treatment you claim to have developed, it would require extensive testing before approval under Conclave bioethical standards. Years, perhaps decades. The Nexari don't have decades, Elena replied firmly. And we've already begun implementation. She gestured to the medical bay visible through a large observation window, where technicians were preparing the treatment delivery system. Kyle Naren would be the first recipient, a decision he had insisted on despite objections from both his crew and the human scientists. The primary observer's colors pulsed with alarm, and the High Arbiter's antennae stiffened. You cannot proceed without Conclave approval. The potential risks are ours to take. Kyle Naren interrupted. My crew and I accepted these risks when we came to Earth. The humans accepted them when they chose to help us despite knowing the Conclave's protocols. Elena stepped closer to the High Arbiter. Your Conclave claims to value life and knowledge above all else. Yet you were willing to let an entire species die because helping them didn't fit into your established procedures. What does that say about your values? The crystalline delegate vibrated in what might have been indignation. You cannot comprehend the complexities of galactic governance. Exceptions lead to instability, which leads to conflict. The protocols exist for a reason. Maybe those protocols need challenging, General Walters suggested. Maybe that's exactly what the galaxy needs right now, someone willing to question the established order. The medical team signaled that the treatment was ready. All eyes turned to Kyle Naren, who moved toward the medical bay. Wait, commanded the High Arbiter. This action could have serious diplomatic consequences for both humanity and the Nexari. Kyle Naren paused at the threshold. With respect, High Arbiter, diplomacy means little to a dying species. The Conclave offered us managed extinction. Humanity offered us hope. With that, he entered the medical bay, where Dr. Tanaka and his team began the treatment process. The Conclave delegates watched in a mixture of concern and curiosity as the synthesized immune platform was introduced into Kyle Naren's system. Hours passed in tense silence. Monitors displayed Kyle Naren's biological responses as the treatment began to take effect. Elena explained the process to the delegates, how they had combined Nexari biotechnology with human-derived adaptive immunity, creating a system that could evolve alongside pathogens rather than trying to eradicate them completely. It's based on coexistence rather than dominance, she explained. Human immune systems don't always eliminate threats. Sometimes they learn to live with them. The primary observer's colors shifted slowly from skepticism to something closer to interest. This approach contradicts all established Nexari medical philosophy. We have always sought perfect solutions. Perfection is often the enemy of survival, Elena replied. Life on Earth has always been messy, competitive, and adaptive. That's our strength. After 12 hours, the first results came in. The pathogen in Kyle Naren's system hadn't been eliminated, but it had been neutralized, rendered harmless by the adaptive immune platform that now circulated through his life support fluid. More importantly, the platform was continuing to evolve, responding to subtle mutations in the pathogen that would have eventually overcome a static treatment. The Nexeri primary observer's colors pulsed with something that needed no translation: hope. 3 days later, in a hastily constructed conference room designed to accommodate the various biological needs of all parties, humanity officially entered galactic politics. Representatives from 17 nations sat across from the conclave delegation, with Kyle Naren and his crew positioned between them, symbolic of their new role as bridges between Earth and the wider galaxy. "The conclave has reviewed the Nexeri medical data," the High Arbiter announced. "The treatment developed through this unauthorized collaboration shows significant promise." Elena caught the reluctant admission in the alien's carefully chosen words. "Enough promise to justify bending your protocols." "The conclave does not bend protocols," the crystalline delegate clarified. "However, we can establish new ones when circumstances warrant. The preliminary contact protocol has been invoked." General Walters leaned forward. "And what exactly does that mean for Earth?" The gelatinous delegate rippled. "Your world will be classified as a transitional civilization, rather than a developing world. Limited cultural and technological exchange will be permitted under strict supervision. Full integration will proceed at an accelerated pace, over decades rather than centuries." "And the Nexeri?" asked Elena, looking at Kyle Naren, whose colors had stabilized into healthy patterns she'd never seen before. "The treatment will be made available to all Nexeri worlds," the High Arbiter stated. "A joint research initiative between Nexeri, human, and conclave scientists will monitor its effectiveness and make necessary adjustments." Kyle Naren's translated voice held a note of satisfaction. "My people will survive, and we will not forget who helped us when the conclave would not." The Secretary General spoke for the first time since the meeting began. "This transitional status, it comes with conditions, I presume." "Naturally," the High Arbiter confirmed. "Humanity must demonstrate its readiness for galactic citizenship. Your technological development will be monitored, your cultural evolution assessed, your potential for conflict evaluated." "In other words," General Walters said with a slight smile, "you'll be watching us closely to make sure we don't disrupt your carefully balanced galactic order too much." The insectoid's antennae twitched in what might have been amusement. "Precisely. The Nexeri chose well when they approached your species, Dr. Reyes. You are unpredictable. The conclave finds unpredictability both dangerous and occasionally necessary." "Life itself is unpredictable," Elena replied. "That's what makes it worth preserving." 1 year later, Elena stood on the observation deck of the first human-built vessel designed to travel beyond the solar system. Beside her, Kyle Naren watched as Earth receded behind them, a blue jewel against the blackness of space. "The treatment has been implemented on 15 Nexori worlds," he informed her, his colors showing emotions that she was now skilled at reading without the translator. "Our population is stabilizing for the first time in decades." "And the conclave?" she asked, still unhappy about how things unfolded. "They adapt, as all life must. Your species has already introduced 3 modifications to the preliminary contact protocol. The High Arbiter claims you're setting a record for constructive disruption." Elena smiled. "We're just getting started." The ship accelerated toward the stars, carrying the first official human diplomatic delegation to the Galactic Conclave's central world. Behind them, Earth continued its rapid transformation, absorbing new knowledge while sharing its unique perspectives with the wider galactic community. The stars had abandoned the Nexeri in their time of need, assuming their extinction was inevitable. Humanity had proven otherwise, and in doing so, they had earned something no other newly contacted world had ever achieved: the respect of civilizations millions of years their senior. Not because humans possessed superior technology or ancient wisdom, but because they refused to accept limitations, because when faced with protocols telling them what couldn't be done, they found a way to do it anyway. Because when a dying species reached out across the void, humanity hadn't hesitated to reach back. As their ship prepared for its first faster-than-light jump, Kyle Naren's colors formed the pattern Elena had come to recognize as profound gratitude. "Do you ever regret it?" he asked, challenging the conclave, accelerating your species' introduction to galactic politics before you were ready. Elena watched as the stars blurred around them, opening possibilities that humanity had only dreamed of until now. "Not for a second," she replied. "Some opportunities are worth the risk. Some principles matter more than protocols. The universe is vast and complex, but so is human potential. I think the galaxy is about to discover that." The ship vanished into the depths of space, carrying with it humanity's unique gift to the stars, the willingness to defy conventional wisdom in service of a greater good. The very quality that had saved the Nexari would now reshape the future of galactic civilization, one unpredictable human decision at a time.